Coming up on Network Africa. At least 32 people killed after a mine bridge collapses in Congo. South Africa assures world leaders of a successful G20 summit, says the country is fully ready. Plus, the United Kingdom threatens visa ban for 3 African nations over low cooperation on deportations. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin this week with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
Uteuzi wako.
Tanzanian President Samia Hassan has sworn in Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba as the country's new Prime Minister in Dodoma. Mr. Nchemba received an overwhelming majority in parliament as the presidential nominee and leading candidate for the ruling Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM party. He will succeed Kassim Majaliwa, who chose not to seek re-election in October's general election. It comes after Hassan won re-election in November, securing a second term in office in a disputed election marred by protests and accusations of election tampering. Opposition party Chadema claims over 1,000 people have been killed during the widespread unrest that followed Hassan's re-election.
For all those who lost their lives on the unrest.
Meanwhile, President Samia Hassan announced the formation of an investigation commission to look into the recent deaths during election-related protests during her inaugural address to the 13th Parliament on Friday. The president also made a direct appeal to law enforcement agencies to show leniency towards youths arrested during the unrest. The Central African Constitutional Council announced that President Touadera and former Prime Ministers Henry Dondra and Anita Dologuele are eligible to run in the upcoming December presidential election, dismissing appeals seeking to disqualify them. The complaints had questioned the nationality of the 2 former prime ministers, alleging dual nationality for Mr. Dondra and a lack of formal reinstatement for Dologuele. The judges ruled that these arguments were unfounded and reaffirmed their jurisdiction to rule on these issues. On Sunday, leaders from across the Great Lakes region gathered in Kinshasa for the 9th summit of the International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, ICGLR, expressing a shared commitment to enhancing peace, security, and economic integration. The participants highlighted the urgent need to address conflicts, strengthen cross-border cooperation, and ensure humanitarian access to populations affected by ongoing insecurity, having taken to the stage amid heckling by members of the audience.
Au nom de la République démocratique du Congo,
President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, who assumed the ICGLR chairmanship for the next 2 years, framed the summit as a call to action. Other leaders also emphasized that political will, shared responsibility, and consistent implementation of prior agreements are essential to ensure that commitments lead to real change.
These are people from Gaza who somehow mysteriously were put on a plane that passed by.
And South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has defended the country's decision to accept 160 Palestinians who arrived in Johannesburg under what he described as mysterious circumstances.
We cannot turn them back. Even though they do not have the necessary documents and papers, these are people from a strife-torn, a war-torn country. And out of compassion, out of empathy, we must receive them and be able to deal with the situation that they are facing. And it does seem like they were being, flushed out. We will get the details later, but from a humanitarian point of view, we could not return them from whence they have come, and we had to accept them, and they are now here, and we are going to be processing everything about them and then deciding precisely what needs to be done.
To our main stories for today, the World Food Programme has expressed outrage over what it calls terrible atrocities in the city of El Fasher in Sudan's Darfur region. Deputy Executive Director C.A.R said the violence should have been prevented and calls for urgent international action to stop such catastrophes from happening elsewhere. Speaking from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, he warned that there are needs across the country and the international community needs to step up. According to the World Health Organization, the Rapid Support Forces seized El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur, and rampaged through the Saudi hospital, killing more than 450 people last month. In the meantime, the UN Human Rights Council says the atrocities unfolding in Sudan's El Fasher were foreseen and preventable, but were not prevented. At a special session of the Council in Geneva, the UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk says his office had issued more than 20 statements on El Fasher alone over the past year, based on information verified by the team.
The atrocities that are unfolding in Al Fasher were foreseen and preventable, but they were not prevented. They constitute the gravest of crimes. My office has issued more than 20 statements on Al Fasher alone over the past year, based on information verified by our team. We warned repeatedly about the strangulating, suffocating siege under which people were reduced to eating animal feed and peanut shells. We warned about the spread of famine as people starved to death. And we warned that the fall of the city to the Rapid Support Forces would result in a bloodbath. So none of us should be surprised by reports that since the RSF took control of Al Fasher, there have been mass killings of civilians, ethnically targeted executions, sexual violence, including gang rape, abductions for ransom, widespread arbitrary detentions, attacks on health facilities, medical staff and humanitarian workers, and other appalling atrocities. But our wake-up calls were not heeded. Bloodstains on the ground in Al Fasher have been photographed from space. The stain on the record of the international community is less visible, but no less damaging. First, all states with influence need to take urgent, concrete action to ensure the protection of all civilians in Al Fasher and safe passage for those trying to leave. States must press for the unimpeded flow of aid and fund humanitarian programs fully.
At least 32 people have been killed after a bridge at a copper and cobalt mine in southeastern Congo collapsed due to overcrowding. Speaking during a press conference after the incident, the province's Interior Minister, Roy Mayonde, said the bridge at the Kalando mine in Mulondo in Lualaba province fell despite strict prohibition on accessing the site due to heavy rainfall and the risk of landslides. He claims illegal diggers forced their way into the quarry. A report by the Congo's Artisanal and Small-Scale Mining Support and Guidance Service said the gunfire from soldiers was what sparked panic among miners who rushed to the bridge, resulting in the fall that left them piled on top one another, causing deaths and injuries. The report also adds that the presence of soldiers at the mine had long been the center of a dispute between Wildcat Miners, that's a cooperative meant to organize operations, and the site's legal operators. In South Africa, the Nigerian-South African Chamber of Commerce has marked its 20th anniversary with a special cocktail forum held in Johannesburg. The event brought together key partners and industry leaders, including representatives from Standard Bank, Access Bank, the Nigerian High Commission, South Africa's Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, board members of the chamber, to reflect on the trade relations between both countries. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, has more.
It's been 2 decades now. The Chamber says it has played a pivotal role in strengthening trade, investment, and bilateral business relations between the two nations.
We bring together government on both sides, but we also bring together very key private sector players who can talk in an environment that is provided for them to be enabling, but they have access to the entire network and ecosystem.
At the sidelines of the event, I caught up with the Chamber's leadership to reflect on its journey and the road ahead.
I think our biggest achievement actually over the years has been creating a safe space for competitors, for Africans from other countries, for Nigerians to come and be in a space where professionalism and information, insights, all of those things are really well appreciated. And we've created a big network of people, both South Africans, Nigerians and others over the years who have really supported us and come to events, got to know each other.
As it celebrates 20 years, the focus now shifts to building new pathways for growth and deeper collaboration. The question is, which sectors should the Chamber focus on next for growth?
So going forward, I think, the whole world is moving in a certain direction. So there's 3 key areas that we have to now follow as well. Trade is obviously a big one. We're a business chamber representing 2 big countries, and so trade is critical, and that's what a lot of our members are doing. But also the digital space and energy. Those are 2 other big sectors that are emerging.
We have a presence in Nigeria, in the financial services sector, and we have about $2 billion invested in Nigeria. I think some of the key sectors that we should be focusing on for both Nigeria and South Africa, number one is obviously the major technological innovation and digitization of our businesses, not only in the financial services sector, but if you look at all areas of healthcare.
If we look at what Africa as a whole has to offer the world, South Africa and Nigeria are 2 of the big economies on the continent. And what we have to offer is very much in terms of food security, so I would say agriculture.
As the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce marks this milestone, the message from stakeholders is clear: stronger partnerships, deeper economic ties, and greater opportunities lies ahead for businesses across both countries. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Let's take a break now on the program. Still to come. Wine culture evolves in Nigeria as Lagos embraces the art of tasting. Please join us again for more details. Welcome back to the program. With only days remaining before South Africa welcomes world leaders for the G20 summit, Minister in the Presidency Khumbudzo Ntshavheni says the country is fully prepared. During an inspection at the Birchwood Hotel in Johannesburg, Ntshavheni expressed satisfaction with the progress made, assuring that all systems are in place for a successful summit.
The social summit is important. We are following in the footsteps of Brazil. It's important because G20, you've got the leaders of the 20+1 most important countries. The +1 is the AU that has joined. But you've got leaders of the most influential countries, those who run the economy, 20 influential countries, those who run the economy of the world, congregating. And it's important that the civil society movement, the social partners come in and say what is their voice, what is their view. Because it's not only governments that decide the future. It's also ordinary citizens that that must contribute to what decision makers do. The president will be receiving the declaration from the social summit on Thursday and will read out the declaration. The declaration comes out from the work of all the other sectors, whether it's a civil society, is C20, whether it's B20, whether it's Children 20, and all the other components. There is 34 components of the social movement across the country. We've of course included a flair of our own South African. For instance, we've included traditional leaders to say they have a view because they're part of South Africa's governance structure.
The United Kingdom is threatening visa ban on 3 African nations over what it calls low cooperation on deportation. The Home Office says visas from Angola, Namibia and the Democratic Republic of Congo will not be granted if their governments do not increase cooperation with the UK's attempts to deport their nationals. In a statement, it says visa bans will be imposed unless these countries accept the return of their criminals and illegal immigrants, saying the threat of penalties is because of unacceptably low cooperation and obstructive returns processes. It also adds that similar measures against other countries are also under consideration. On a lighter note, the art of wine tasting is becoming an acquired taste in Lagos, Nigeria. And according to wine export consultant Chinedu Rosa, the taste for wine is changing in the country. Having toured the world in her over 25 years of experience, she is back to the country to make sure Nigerians experience good wines, especially as the festive season approaches.
So with my partners, you will actually travel to...
There is no exact number of wine experts in the world, nor in Nigeria. But for the lady whose sojourn with wines began with a keen interest as a teenager, this was not a trajectory her life was expected to take.
I don't, there are times in your life something just clicks. And with me, wine clicked. Wine clicked. My husband was a wine importer. God rest his soul. He is late now. But I started drinking wine quite when I was 16, 17, because I have an uncle who is a bishop, an archbishop actually, and he was based in Rome. So within that lifespan, he would bring some really good wines. And I've never been a beer drinker. I never liked beer. I don't think I even drank alcohol growing up till I started drinking wine. And it was a love at first sight for me with wine. I've always loved wine, but the problem, as usual, Nigeria is not a wine drinking culture. So if I do not travel those days, I couldn't drink the wines I wanted till my uncle came back. And then I'm like, oh, did uncle bring some wine? And then, you can try some nice wines. But then growing up, things were changing in Nigeria. And then my late husband went into importing wine. And teaching, I was to myself, yeah, good wine. But it wasn't it wasn't the case. They were bringing wine based on price.
For over 20 years, Chinedu has found partners who share the same passion and have held wine tasting classes, master classes, and exported good wine from all over Europe to clients around the world.
What I found out in my years in the wine industry is that Nigerians have really elegant taste. They start with sweet wines, not complicated, but the more they drink, the more they explore. And like one of my partners said, we are very adventurous people. Give me, let me try. Give me, let me try. And that was what my wine store was doing. At the EXO wine store, we opened the first wine store where you could come taste wine, where you could come discuss about wine, eat with wine, It was the first place where we did wine tasting of champagne and akara, which is one of the biggest hits in the wine industry when it comes to Africa. Oh, it's amazing. The acidity and the sweetness of the champagne with the akara. Akara also have a bit of acidity with salt and the spice. I will have to do that with you one day, you see. It is amazing.
She brings her expertise to Nigeria from time to time, and friends and clients have come to expect the best from her. So how about a little masterclass on wines, wine tasting, and how to hold a glass of wine?
I don't want you drinking and falling on the ground. It defeats the whole idea of wine drinking because it's a lifestyle. And having a lifestyle really teaches people how to temper their alcohol intake. Because you want to sit and have your glass of wine, roll it, talk to your friend, say cheers, girl, and not down it. You sip. You don't gurgle, you don't, it's not spirit. Or drink from a bottle, oh my God. You don't do that. And you would see it elevates people's style. You see people sitting straight when they drink wine, making eye contact and actually having a discussion. That was how wine became something the Europeans, it's second nature to them. You sit down, you have a conversation with a glass of wine in your hand. A lot of time in Nigeria, you see people hold their glasses like this. And honestly, I'm not trying to be dismissive of that, but the fact is, the wine is a living thing. Every temperature affects it. So the stem is here for a reason. They want you, or the best way to enjoy your wine is to have your glass in your hand, below the stem, or this way. Just don't touch the tulip side or where the wine is. And don't forget, fingerprints. It makes glass look dirty later, So when you hold it like this, you have a good grip, and you can swirl, and you can enjoy the bouquet of your wine.
She looks forward to spending Christmas for the first time in the country after many years in France, where she lives with her family and has her business.
You put your glasses against each other and try to look at somebody in the eyes. Very, very important.
She hopes to spend many more special moments sharing her love for good wine and the good life. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
And as we end the program for today, here's our fun fact about the continent. Did you know that Africa's largest freshwater lake is Lake Victoria? Spanning the borders of Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya, this massive lake covers about 59,000 square kilometers, making it not only the largest in Africa, but also the second largest freshwater lake in the world by surface area. And that's it on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.